everyone, this book is called A Home for Goddesses and Dogs, and if you're a dog person, if you like books about people surviving really difficult things and learning how to move on in life, this is the book for you. It's about a 13-year-old named Lydia, who when she was very young, her father left her and her mother just passed away as well. So now she's being sent with her aunt and her wife to go live in rural Connecticut. Takes place right here in the state. While she's with them, her aunts adopt a dog, and Lydia is not a dog person at all. And this dog is really badly behaved. It pees on everything, runs around, and this book is all about, kind of learning to deal with change, but also there are lots of secrets that are going to be revealed. So it's called A Home for Goddesses and Dogs, and I'm going to read the first chapter for you now. All right. All things boxy. You'll be all right. You come from strong. That had been my mother's refrain, one of them. I would have given anything to hear her say it again right then in her voice, but that wasn't going to happen. All I could do was think those words, not the same. Lydia Bratches Kemp, don't feel lonely for her, not right now. Don't feel anything. Tuck it away. I buckled myself into the front seat of Aunt Brat's boxy car. Funny. Boxy car, a box on my lap, and outside the window was the little box of a house that I was leaving behind. We could never name the color of that siding. It wasn't white enough to be white, not yellow enough to be cream. The grayish stains the house wore down its front could not be named either, though Mom and I had once tried. Look, it's changing colors, she'd said. It must be board. What do you think we have there, Lydia? Dove feather gray? Maybe iris mist? Today, the thin line of aluminum that framed the windows picked up a dull bluish light from somewhere in the winter sky. The outside of the house was nothing like the inside. Mom had spent the 2 years since my grandmother had died personalizing the place, as she'd called it. She'd made little stone and mosaic altars to the seasons on the windowsills with a glue gun. She'd painted moon art at the top of Grandma's worn-out wallpaper, and we'd lettered lyrics and poems across the jambs and around the light switches. Mom called it our happy retaliation after the fact. We loved Grandma the way one loves a family's most difficult member, but she'd made that house feel like a trap. No wonder Mom had wanted us to let loose on the place once Grandma was gone. Now Mom was gone too. This was not unexpected. It may sound impossible, but I was prepared, as much as one can be. When it came to death and what came with it, Mom had been everything from mad to matter-of-fact to jokey and irreverent, and, I'd always thought, forgiving. Her bluntness had made some people uncomfortable, but I'd grown up with it. We had talked about the day I'd be finally fully orphaned. We'd talked about Aunt Brat, too. She was my last of kin, my last family member. I'd go live with her one day. And here that day was. It just happened to be New Year's Eve. I cupped my hands on the sides of the box on my lap. The driver's side door opened, and I watched my aunt let herself into the car. She swept the fabric of her long boot skirt in with her. She slammed the door shut against a gust of Rochester's winter breath. I had watched my aunt in recent days. She was tall, and even inside the tiny rooms of the little house, she'd managed to take long strides. I could hear that skirt swishing. When she'd reached up to empty the kitchen cupboards, her arms seemed to sweep up there, almost like she was performing a solo stadium wave. It seemed familiar, though she'd only ever visited a handful of times. Grandma and Aunt Brat had never gotten along. Mom had always said she longed to see her older sister more. They'd stayed telephone close. Well, less so in recent years. After Grandma died, I figured Aunt Brat would visit, maybe even a lot. But then I'd overhear Mom lying to my aunt on the phone. We were fine. Her health was good. It wasn't. You've got your job and a busy life, Brat, Mom would say. I'll let you know when things get dicey with this cruddy heart of mine. I'd felt bad for my aunt these past few days. She wasn't as well prepared for this as I was. I had cried plenty. But if death was a dog of a thing, and my mother had said it would be, Aunt Brat seemed harder bitten. She had lost it more than once, convulsing into tears as we'd cleared out the little house. I'm sorry, she'd said when she'd broken down in front of me. I just wish I had known Holly was failing. I wish she'd called. I would have come. Now she smoothed herself into the driver's seat and pulled the belt across her body. She pressed the key into the ignition and shot me a small smile, one a lot like my mother's, as the car started up. She shook back her gray hair, cut blunt as a broom straw, to meet her shoulders. Are you buckled, Lydia? Yes, I said. Perfect, she said. At least it's not snowing. She checked her mirrors and dialed up some heat. Off we whirled, away from the little house of unnameable color, away from my home for the last 7 years. It'd be put up for sale now. Aunt Brat planned to use the money to pay the last of our Rochester bills. She hoped there'd be a little college nest egg left for me. Don't worry, Aunt Brat said. She pulled onto the highway. You're not trapped. I promise I won't talk at you for the whole trip. And I won't do that to you either, I said. We smiled. However, it is a long ride. We might want to cover a few things. She looked away from the road for a second to glance at me. You can ask me anything. Hope you know that. Thanks, I said, but I couldn't make her the same offer. I slid the box I was holding on my lap closer to my body. I probably sighed a little. Are you sure you want to hold that? There's still plenty of room in the back, Aunt Brat said. I'll hold it, I said. I knew it seemed like a weird choice. The box was not heavy, but it was tall enough that it came up to my chest. I glanced over my shoulder toward the back of the car. I knew what was there. 2 suitcases of clothes, neither very big, 1 box of books, and a very cool old wooden art chest with stacking trays inside. I drummed my fingers lightly on the box on my lap. This one was full of, well, paper stuff. Most important, a thick stack of collages. The goddesses. So that's chapter 1 of A Home for Goddesses and Dogs. If you want to learn more about the goddesses or Lydia's art projects or what happens with the dog, I suggest you pick this up from my library. Have a great day. Thanks, everyone.